A member of Egypt's interim military government said unease over the threats that the Muslim Brotherhood poses to prospects of democracy in the country are exaggerated, and that the Islamist movement has a right to partake in political life. They are not seeking to have a religious country, said Major General Mohammed Sayed al-Azhar, a member of the Supreme Council of the Armed Forces, in remarks quoted by Bloomberg News. They have to have the same rights as all Egyptians. Day by day, the Brotherhood are changing and are getting on a more moderate track, he said. They have the willingness to share in the political life. They are sharing in good ways. Expect the Muslim Brotherhood to hijack the Egyptian government come the September elections and will likely win the presidency. I expect the first move of the new government will be to promptly break its peace agreement with Israel, which will win favor with the Egyptian people. If that happens, in an effort to gain favor with its own people, Jordan may follow suit. A dispute is building between Israel and Lebanon, or Hezbollah, over their maritime border and huge natural gas and oil reserves beneath the Mediterranean Sea. The countries are longtime enemies and do not have diplomatic relations. Lebanon has submitted its own sea boundary proposal to the United Nations, and the Israeli government earlier this month approved a conflicting proposal that it also sent to the world body. Lebanon called the Israeli proposal a violation of international law and Lebanese sovereignty. Hezbollah has repeatedly warned Israel to stay out of Lebanese territory in search of oil and gas. Israel has submitted a legal claim to the giant oil and gas discoveries and are within their right to the natural resources they have discovered. Hezbollah is threatening war against Israel if they continue to illegally mine the area. I'd watch this development. I have a feeling it will serve as an excuse for Hezbollah to attack Israel, to divert attention away from Iran's nuclear ambitions. Iran may also sense that Israel may be gearing up for an attack against their nuclear facilities and order a Hezbollah-Hamas missile attack. In other news, this September, two important events, both dangerous to Israel, will take place at the United Nations headquarters in New York City. The first, as many know, is the Palestinian Authority's effort to win international support for its unilateral statehood bid. The second, which is closely related, is the Third World Conference Against Racism, dubbed Durban III. The first such conference was held in Durban, South Africa. Both that and the second Durban conference quickly disintegrated from legitimate discussions on racism into orgies of anti-Israel sentiment. The question both of those gatherings raised, and which Durban III is certain to raise again, is why the world has such an unnatural obsession with bashing Israel. Here is an enormously informative video presentation put together by the Messianic-led Jerusalem Institute of Justice that explains how an organization that claims to protect human rights is doing just the opposite when it comes to Israel. While I watched this video, two things came to my mind. One, even the world believes that Israel is the number one root to the world's problems. Zechariah 12:3 says, Jerusalem or Israel would become a stumbling stone to all the world in the last days. Yes, tiny Israel, the size of New Jersey, with a population of 7.5 million people, has been declared by world leaders to be the root of the world's problems. 2. Russia and the Islamic nations are recognized by the world to have formed a recent union for political gain in these last days. The Bible predicted this union would develop over 2,500 years ago in Ezekiel 38 and 39. That would develop into an attack against Israel by Russia and an Islamic alliance. This future war is known as the Battle of Gog and Magog. Now here's the video.
No matter how you feel about the United Nations, it's the one place on planet Earth where nations get together and attempt to speak with one voice. That's why their resolutions can make a big difference. So when people all around the world see that approximately 40% of the UN Human Rights Council resolutions were against just one country, most of us would assume that country must be a really bad place. Perhaps ruled by, say, a genocidal dictator who kills his own people, or maybe a tyrant continually threatening to annihilate another country. But actually, the country that has been condemned more times than every repressive country on earth combined is a democracy. The only viable democracy in the Middle East, Israel. And with these repeated resolutions against Israel, it's easy to see why so many in the international community perceive Israel as a major cause of world problems. But are all these resolutions really justified? Because whether or not you agree with how Israel is handling its many challenges, when you do a basic comparison, like the number of deaths Israel is responsible for with the number of condemnations they've received, and then make that same comparison with other countries, it paints a surprising picture of a possible double standard. What could explain the enormous imbalance? Quick history lesson. In 1975, Cuba needed to gather support in order to take down the biggest democratic superpower dominating the global schoolyard, the United States. Seeing how the UN was mostly controlled by the democratic superpowers, Cuba, along with other communist nations, finally found a way to even the playing field, because it just so happened that, at the same time, a number of Muslim countries were looking for new, creative ways to gang up on Israel. So the communists realized that by joining the Muslims' anti-Israel coalition, they could create an unstoppable voting bloc inside the UN, because with every resolution they passed against Israel, they simultaneously discredited Israel's ally, the United States. So in 1975, the newfound communist Muslim voting bloc spearheaded the passing of a UN resolution that officially stated, "Zionism is a form of racism." Yes, Zionism. The movement trying to find ways to protect Jews from racism was redefined as racism, which is kind of like saying the civil rights movement is racism and Martin Luther King is a racist. This is why resolution after resolution after resolution against Israel from 1975 until this day easily passes through the UN. But today, this movement has a new tool for attacking Israel as the cause of all our problems. The UN's Durban Review Conference on Racism. Durban is charged with finding the real root of racism, and at the last conference, keynote speaker and human rights best friend Mahmoud Ahmadinejad, the guy who openly called for Israel's annihilation, revealed that Zionism is not only racist, but the true root of racism throughout the world. And what has history taught us about what tends to happen when one ethnic group is believed to be the hidden root to all the world's problems? What is happening at Durban is catastrophic, not only for Jews, but for the whole world. And it's growing, spreading, and gaining credibility through Durban. In fact, this year, representatives from over 140 different countries will descend on New York City for Durban as speakers work to convince them about the secret Jewish cause to worldwide racism. Let's learn from history and this time act before false accusations lead to violence. We cannot leave this message unchallenged. We need your help. We're asking you, your friends, families, neighbors, and faith community to join us in New York City and expose this threat and confront this lie before it once again takes hold of half the world.